It was Bush who said, you're with us or against us, and not God. And that's an important point, because
But Mr. Bush did not say so on behalf of God.
And you're a former radical yourself.
You're about to watch an intense debate unfold on the topic of religious tolerance. Is Islam intolerant? In this intellectual showdown, Douglas Murray takes center stage against a panel of Muslim scholars and activists. Murray, known for his sharp wit and incisive arguments, dismantled the opposition with calm, rational points. And on the other side, we have a lineup of Muslim scholars and Anjem Choudhury, ready to defend their faith with the zeal of 1,000 preachers. Let's get started. The debate kicks off with the moderator introducing the speakers. We have Douglas Murray, the director of the Center for Social Cohesion, and a panel of Muslim scholars and activists ready to defend Islam with all the fervor they can muster.
Disturbing young people being far more radical. Very disturbing surveys about 7/7 and 9/11 come out.
Here comes Anjem Choudhury, charging into the debate like a knight on a holy mission. He starts by proclaiming the virtues of Sharia law, insisting that it is all about protecting honor and dignity, and tolerance is based on diving law.
I grew up in a very non-Muslim environment. Most of my friends are in fact Jewish or just generally non-Muslim, and it meant that I was taught to tolerate difference from a very young age, and I think there's a massive difference between tolerating and accepting. Now, I won't partake in behaviour that...
Douglas Murray, ever the calm and collected debater, waits patiently. You can almost see him mentally preparing to dismantle these arguments with the precision of a seasoned pro. When he finally speaks, it's like watching a master at work. He brings historical context and logical reasoning to the table, pointing out the problematic aspects of implementing medieval laws in modern society.
In the Quran, there is nothing, a term in the Quran which is very clearly against homosexual people. Or against homosexual people, but the problem
is... There is the Bible too.
The problem is...
Murray calmly points out that while Sharia law may claim to protect honor, its actual implementation has often led to human rights abuses and social injustices. The crowd starts the activist arguments. The Anjem Choudhury continues his passionate defense, asserting that Islam's intolerance is divinely mandated.
That other people do. You have to at least tolerate it, especially in today's times and in this country as well, where there is such a diversity of behaviour and beliefs. You must tolerate it, even if it's just putting on a face.
Yes, you said, go on.
Ah, yes. The "because the book says so" argument. Classic move. Still clinging to that old excuse? It's like saying, I didn't want to, but the book told me to. Not exactly a convincing argument in a modern tolerant society. It's like citing the Pirates of the Caribbean code as law. Douglas Murray waits for his turn, knowing that the best counter-arguments are those that address the root of the issue. He brings up how other religions have evolved past such draconian measures. For example, Christianity once had similar harsh punishments, but these have been reformed over time. Why not Islam?
Aren't any good. Christianity and Judaism, many centuries ago, got through this process of dropping the wicked and the violent verses. Islam has to do that now, and it has to do it fast.
Murray counters with historical examples of other religions evolving past such draconian measures. He highlights the need for Islam to undergo a similar transformation. The crowd begins to murmur, clearly impressed by Murray's logical and historical grounding. It's becoming apparent that relying solely on ancient texts without context or evolution is a weak defense.
Religion is simply a way of understanding the world. Surely it must adapt as the world adapts, otherwise it shall die out.
Exactly.
What is this? Let's get to apostasy as well.
It's like arguing that we should still use leeches for medical treatments because that's how it was done in the good old days. Evolution isn't just for biology, folks. But of course, Anjem Choudhury isn't about to let logic get in the way of his agenda. He continues to make some radical claims about the need for Sharia law.
We've got a gay Muslim to speak to us, although you don't believe it. Well, some people think you're an oxymoron, Anjem, as well. Just a moron. So let's not call each other oxymorons. But, that's why he's in disguise.
Oh, great. Here we go again with the dubious statistics. It's like saying the crime rate is low because we never report any crimes. Brilliant logic, if you live in opposite land. Let's break this down with a bit of satire. Imagine a world where you can claim anything as long as you never check the facts. Why is the sky blue? Because my uncle's dog's best friend said so. Makes about as much sense as these claims. A heated debate ensues over the root word of Islam. Muslim scholar claims it is a linguistic duel that seems more suited for a spelling bee.
Isn't he?
No, the fact is that we have been given the Sharia to live our lives in every aspect and every department of our life.
It's a linguistic showdown. Who knew that the root of a word could cause such a ruckus? It's like watching grammar nerds fight over an Oxford comma. Douglas Murray steps in to steer the conversation back to the real issues, emphasizing that the debate over a word's root is missing the larger point of intolerance and its societal impacts. Douglas Murray doesn't hold back, comparing Islamic practices to those of other religions.
Are fighting the homosexual people because they're trying to get the power against these minorities to get the majorities. That's just the reason. And for me, I'm a Muslim person. If I want to know what's the rules.
Douglas pulls out the history book like a teacher catching a student copying homework. It's time for a reality check. He systematically dismantles the idea that Islam is unique in its violent history by showing how other religions have moved past their own violent beginnings. Imagine if Christianity still operated like the Crusades era. Sunday Mass would be more like a Game of Thrones episode. Murray continues, emphasizing that religions must evolve to remain relevant and humane in modern society.
About this, that the politicized version of Islam is the real problem at the moment. Most faiths take a long time to sort of work themselves out, to be interpreted, for people to drop verses.
He argues that the problem isn't with the core beliefs, but with the refusal to adapt and reform outdated practices. It's like insisting on using a typewriter in the age of computers because that's how it's always been done. Time to upgrade, people. Focus on the arguments made about the practical implications of religious intolerance, particularly in modern Islamic states. Anjem Choudhury defends harsh punishments by quoting the Quran, saying that it is not about revenge, but implementing divine law.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and even in the realm of punishment and crime, He is the only one who can determine what the punishment should be, and we should implement it not as if you like, taking some kind of revenge, but as implementing the divine law of God.
When someone defends stoning with a straight face, you know you are in for some medieval entertainment. Another speaker in the crowd takes this opportunity to highlight the reason why every religion needs to be in touch with the changes of the current reality.
You're talking about sort of editing your religion for the times. You're saying that it kind of compromises your religion. Religion is simply a way of understanding the world. Surely it must adapt as the world adapts, otherwise it shall die out.
He emphasizes Murray's point that modern legal systems have found more humane and effective ways to maintain social order without resorting to such barbaric measures. So, every religion needs to find a way to accept this progress made so far. Barbaric punishments is like using a sledgehammer to swat a fly. Sure, it gets the job done, but at what cost? Delve into the discussion of Islamism as a political ideology and its impact on society. Let's hear from a gay Muslim who supports Douglas Murray's points. He courageously speaks about the intolerance he faces not from Islam itself, but from Islamic political figures.
Islamic figures are fighting the homosexual people because they're trying to get the power against these minorities to get the majorities. That's just the reason.
This is a critical distinction. The intolerance isn't inherently Islamic, but politically motivated. Leaders exploit religion to consolidate power, targeting vulnerable minorities like the LGBTQ+ community to rally the minority behind them. It's like a magician's trick. Distract the audience with one hand, while the other hand pulls the strings.
And for me, I'm a Muslim person. If I want to know what's the rules, I can go.
The core texts often have nuanced interpretations. The issue arises when political figures cherry-pick these texts to suit their agendas. It's like reading only the headlines of a newspaper and ignoring the actual story, misleading and dangerous.
But the problem
is the Bible too.
The problem is that there's two things. People now, or the governments, especially my government, I'm from Iraq, because they are mixing the political situation with the religious.
This blending of politics and religion is a recipe for disaster. When political ambitions masquerade as religious mandates, it leads to the persecution of not just homosexuals, but anyone who deviates from the imposed norm. It's like putting a wolf in sheep's clothing, deceptive and deadly.
And here what our country is suffering because of these Muslim figures killing people, not only homosexual people. They are killing everyone. What's happening now in Iraq because all of them.
So very much.
Here lies the crux of the problem. Political Islamism uses religion as a tool to justify violence and control. This isn't about faith, it's about power. When religious leaders act more like political tyrants, the lines between governance and spirituality blur, leading to widespread suffering. This brave speaker underscores the reality that the Quran, when interpreted with genuine understanding, does not advocate for the hatred and violence that political figures push forward. The misuse of religion for political gains is a perversion of faith. Another scholar points out that when religion is used as a tool for political power,
for the vast majority of good-minded people that are watching this show, I want to make it absolutely clear. Anjem Choudhury does not represent Islam, he does not represent Muslims, he does not represent decent human beings. Yeah? He has no right to interpret the Sharia.
The Inquisition and the Salem witch trials illustrate how religious fervor, when manipulated for political power, leads to persecution and injustice. These historical events show the dangers of intertwining religious dogma with political authority, resulting in widespread suffering and societal harm. Imagine your local politician also being your spiritual advisor. Now that's a recipe for disaster. Murray continues by emphasizing the importance of separating religion from politics to ensure freedom and equality for all.
I couldn't agree with that more. The great achievement of Western European civilization in the last few hundred years was the Enlightenment. The ability to not have rules based on people pointing to a verse in a holy book.
He argues that true religious tolerance can only be achieved when religious laws are kept out of the political sphere. It's like trying to mix oil and water. They just don't want to belong together. Tries to counter Douglas Murray's points by accusing the West of hypocrisy, highlighting past atrocities committed in the name of Christianity and other Western ideologies.
You show yourself and it's being a good person. It's people who screw up everything in this world. The world's a great place, but it's people who damage it.
Douglas Murray?
And if I can say so, I mean, I couldn't agree with that more.
The classic, "but you did it too" defense, used by toddlers and political activists alike. It's like saying, sure, I broke the vase, but remember when you broke mom's favorite mug? Douglas Murray responds by acknowledging these past atrocities, but emphasizing that Western societies have made significant strides in reforming and distancing themselves from such practices. He points out that the key difference is the willingness to evolve and learn from history.
Great achievement of Western European civilization in the last few hundred years was the Enlightenment. The ability to not have rules based on people pointing to a verse in a holy book that you may not think is a holy book and saying you have to live your life by the law.
Murray highlights how modern Western societies have developed systems of accountability, human rights, and legal frameworks that prevent such abuses from reoccurring. It's like comparing your ancient flip phone to a modern smartphone. Sure, they both make calls, but one has clearly evolved to be smarter and more user-friendly. Douglas Murray acknowledges that the vast majority of Muslims are peaceful and law-abiding citizens who do not adhere to extremist views.
Who've come here, and I think it was very telling to me that in a mainly Muslim country.
Very welcoming, yeah.
Yeah, very welcome.
But you had a problem in a Muslim country because you're gay.
Murray emphasizes that while most Muslims are peaceful, the challenge lies in addressing the small but significant minority that subscribes to extremist ideologies. He argues that more moderate Muslims need to be vocal and active in condemning and countering these extremists. Highlight the irony in arguments made by Anjem Choudhury about tolerance. He insists that Islam is a tolerant religion, but then immediately lists behaviors and beliefs that are not tolerated under Sharia law.
Sort of editing your religion for the times, you're saying that it kind of compromises your religion. Religion is simply a way of understanding the world. Surely it must adapt as the world adapts, otherwise it shall die out.
Exactly.
What is this? Let's get to apostasy.
The irony here is thicker than a slice of British humor. Preaching tolerance while defending intolerance is like saying, I love everyone, except I don't. Douglas Murray takes this opportunity to underscore the importance of genuine tolerance, which means accepting differences even when they challenge personal beliefs.
We've managed to get away from that, and as the gentleman in the front row here has shown, it's very important that Islam also gets away from that. If that happens, it can be a guide to your life, but not the legal nightmare which people like Mr. Choudhury would have us live in.
Murray highlights the need for an inclusive society where freedom of belief and expression are protected for all, not just for those who conform to a particular set of religious laws. And there you have it, folks. We have dissected the debate and seen how Douglas Murray, with his sharp wit and solid facts, has effectively silenced the extremists, while promoting a message of tolerance and rational discourse.
Muslim. And I'm proud I'm Muslim, but I'm gay.
Was the problem the culture in which you were, or the faith which you practiced?
The problems with the Islamic figures.
Douglas Murray's balanced approach is a breath of fresh air in a world often clouded by extremism and misinformation. His ability to separate the political ideology of Islamism from the peaceful practices of the majority of Muslims is crucial for fostering understanding and tolerance. Remember, folks, the key takeaway here is that while we must be vigilant against extremism, we should also celebrate and support those who live peacefully and lawfully. It's all about balance and perspective. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more insightful and entertaining content. Until next time, stay informed and stay critical.